pure, blissful silence. That is what happens when 2 of the 3 kids go to the grandparents. Pure, blissful silence. No fan, no noise machines, just quiet. Timestamp. So, guys, I am back. This is actually my second attempt to cover this. As you can see, this is one of the 3 games that I said I was going to unbox, and I did. And I started filming it, and then I realized that number one, my brain was not working because of sleep deprivation, and I was unable to talk in any coherent fashion in any way that would make this watchable. And the second thing that I noticed is that I had an absurd amount of cardboard to punch out. And here's the thing that I haven't figured out that is like the watchable part of an unboxing is if you have a game that has a lot of stuff to unbox, like Kickstarter size or big box games like this, you probably don't want to unbox or punch out every single one of those pieces on camera. But I started to, and once I did, I couldn't finish. So I didn't finish the video, but I finished punching stuff out. And that's why I'm not really timestamp counting this as a unboxing. This is a nice bit. This is a look at a deluxe aspect of a game, which in this case is the production value of Eclipse, Second Dawn of the Galaxy specifically. The first game, I don't know. I've never seen the first edition of it. I've seen the box of it, but I've never seen it in person. Don't really know what they've changed. But this, just from the looks of it, takes an exceedingly difficult type of game, a Space 4X, and packages it in a way similar to Dwellings of Eldervale, where player trays are all separated out. They're pretty much ready to go. You just pass them out. And you turn a massive table hog into a much more accessible table hog. It's still a table hog, but the likelihood of you getting it to the table in a faster and less stressful manner is a lot. So I've also got on the wide angle now, so you're going to see more of the table. I don't know if you can still see the front of this, but I pushed it forward so I can read you the flavor text, because in Eclipse, Second Dawn for the galaxy has been a peaceful place for many years. After the ruthless Terran hegemony war, much effort has been employed by all major spacefaring species to prevent the terrifying events from repeating themselves. Flavor text timestamp. The Galactic Council was formed to enforce precious peace, and it has taken many courageous efforts to prevent the escalation of malicious acts. Nevertheless, tension and discord are growing among the 7 major species and in the Council itself. Old alliances are shattering, and hasty diplomatic treaties are made in secrecy. A confrontation of the superpower seems inevitable. Only the outcome of the galactic conflict remains to be seen. Which faction will emerge victorious and lead the galaxy under its rule? The shadows of the great civilizations are about to eclipse the galaxy. Lead your people to victory. Dramatic timestamp. So, this is a Space 4X game. It is touted or discussed in the same rarefied air as Twilight Imperium, 3rd or 4th edition, whichever Twilight Imperium you have or you've played. And this is the very nice 2nd edition of it, kind of like the revised look at it. And I have made 1 or 2, or maybe just 1 organizational change to this that I'll explain as I go. But you've got your main rulebook for this, and you have something that's crucial, which is the place that tells you where all of the trays go and what goes in those trays. Now, there's a couple aspects of this that they don't explicitly mention that I'll just kind of say in case you decide that you want to get this. But the thing that I do want to do is share with you, so that was the flavor text that I just read. But what this is you are in control of vast interstellar civilizations, and you compete for dominance with your rivals. It's a round-based game. And the way that it works is you have some competing things that you're going after. You have a massive player area where you're kind of judging or jumbling, changing, organizing your own technology system. But then you also have action phases, combat phases, refresh phases, upkeep phases, reactions that you can do even if it's not your turn. And then you have major different actions that you can do, which is exploring, which is researching, which is building, upgrading, moving, and influencing. So there is diplomacy in this game. So it's, this magnanimous. It's a large space opera, which is probably why visually and stylistically it is looked at or compared alongside Twilight Imperium. So if you have played the first game or the first edition of it, but you haven't seen the second edition, or if you're new to this game at all, these are all of the component quality things going on. These are massive two-sided player aids, both with, you can kind of be a regular Terran person, the Terran Republic or the Terran Union, but then you also have these other options on the other side, which are unique, different space races. This is the Descendants of Draco, but these are really thick, nice, kind of plasticky player mats. These are huge though, and those aren't even, like, you still have your player tray after that. So there's 6 of these because there's 6 players max in the game, based off of the amount of player trays and the player count. It's a 2 to 6 player game. It takes it says 25 minutes a person, which is one of the things that Eclipse has that other games, or that Twilight Imperium does not have, is that this is touted or described as a game that is able to be played in a shorter time period. You can play this game in 2 to 3 hours rather than the 4 to 12 that Twilight Imperium can take. Which is one reason why I was interested in it, because I like the experience that Twilight Imperium gives, but I'm not always sure when I'm going to be able to play it because it's such like a big game. I mean, I was really lucky and had a super nice Secret Santa for this year give me the Prophecy of Kings expansion, and I haven't even unboxed it yet because I just, I want to give it some time to like look over and stuff. So you've got your player areas. You've got, this is an like evolving and growing technology. You've got your round tracker up here, but then you've got this technology kind of board where the tiles, which I'll show you in a little bit, will inset in or inlay in here, and they'll kind of sit, and the technology that's available will grow as the game goes on. It will, be something to do, but you've got really nice chunky miniatures in this. Like, this is like a nice thick heft to them. All of the pieces feel really chunky. There's a lot of space games, even some of my favorites like Forbidden Stars, that have really flimsy miniature pieces, kind of from like Fantasy Flight's heyday, when they were, in my experience, exceptional in terms of the games that they were cranking out. But their miniature design, I felt, was weak or vulnerable. These all feel like chunky and nice and tactile, but I don't feel like they're going to break just messing with them. And so you've got kind of all of these different things. You've got kind of like a halo-ish ring with a central orb, like a space station. You've got like these monoliths. You've got these destroyer ships, and you've got all these different types of dice. So these are kind of like your main components that are outside of the players. And there's 2 of those with, and then this is, so the first time I've seen a system like this was with Chronicles of Drunagor, which also did Game Trays. Game Trays has consistently made probably my favorite plastic inserts that I've seen in games, period. Sometimes it's hit or miss. And I feel like on the times when it's been a miss, I think some people get frustrated with Game Trays. But I have learned, just talking with people in the community, that Game Trays is not always like the final decision on how an insert is. Like, sometimes the publisher or sometimes the manufacturer will make a tweak or a decision without Game Trays. And so that's just something that's interesting for me to learn, is that it's not always like their decision to have a design aspect be implemented. But I love this. So I saw this, for the first time with Chronicles of Drunagor with a lot of their status tokens and stuff like this. I have issues with the Chronicles of Drunagor insert, specifically spacing and actual like room for what there is. Like there's not enough space in there, even though it's a really good system and I think it helps you play that game a lot faster than you normally would. There's a point when people make exceptional design choices with organizers where if they do so good and then they miss one spot, it's almost like it spoils us as the gamer, because I'm like, why couldn't you do that one thing? You did all this other stuff, which is, you know, probably unfair to them, because at the end of the day, they've made it way more accessible than it would have been without these. And so, I don't know, but this is I'm trying to get to the point of this is really well done. All of these fit perfectly. They even have like the exact same inset space of this like pushed in like reverse rectangular pyramid that kind of locks them all from moving. So, you know, I can do this and they're not going to go anywhere because they're all locked in with that little push-in piece. So these are all the technology tiles. You've got Sentient Hall, Conifold Field, Tachyon Drive, Transition Drive, Positron Computer, Fusion Drive, Improved Hull, Plasma Missile, Flux Missile, Phase Shield, you know, Nuclear Source. A lot of different stuff going on here, all organized with drives and sources and hulls and missiles and, you know, all the stuff that's going on here. So this is kind of your evolving technology tray. And then you've got your 6 player trays. Now these have got additional like innovation going on that maybe doesn't even seem apparent at first. So there's 6 of these. But one thing that's cool that I haven't fully explored yet, because I'm a little anxious to really like lock it in. So in this section right here at the back, which maybe you can't see, maybe you can see, originally had a foam or styrofoamish lock, partially to protect this big miniature here, this, you know, Death Star. I have since replaced it with these tiles, specifically because these are supposed to slot into the player trays. If you see that here, they're supposed to kind of like pop in, and there's spots where you can have your cubes, and you can also lock in your cubes almost like a dual layer board. The only issue is that at least in the one I tried, it didn't fully fit to where it bowed in right here, which to me I don't love, because it's a thin, weak little neck of cardboard, and I didn't want to long-term damage the cardboard for the sake of the convenience of this. So I actually need to leverage it back out like I did the first time. Got to figure out how I'm going to do that. There we go. I think I got it. So I am not going to lock those in yet. I'm not going to shove them in, because I kind of want to see if I can look online or see exactly how you're supposed to shove those in, because I don't want it to compromise the cardboard. It's convenient, it's nice, but I don't want it to damage the pieces long term. So as you can see, every single player tray has their own stuff going on. They've each got their own home sector, which kind of slots over and locks in all of their status cubes and their discs, and so you can have that slotted in. They've got their specific alien symbol side, and then they've got their Terran or Earth human side, all of which have their own variations. They've got little tracking markers. They've got ambassador tokens. They've got these ship supply tiles, and then everybody has their own different segments of ships, like their small ships, medium ships, large ships, biggest ships, and all of them are completely different designs, which I like. You know, there's space games where the only difference between the ships in terms of the design of the miniatures is like the color of them, but every single one of these races has different styled miniatures and ships. So I like that a lot. But all of that is nestled into this player tray, and then it locks away. So similar to the Dwellings of Eldervale design, it allows you to just hand that stuff out, and the players are pretty much ready to start except for the main board structure. So I really like that. A little anxious or curious about maybe the most economical or efficient way to tweak this and get that stuff, because they have those. They also have these little paper ones that you can kind of, you can kind of pop in there as well. Those don't, I'm not as worried about bending these because they're kind of that plastic material. So they have, 2 copies of that. And then inside the rest of this, these are all of the trays that fit inside. And then on the bottom is the big tray. And you've got all of the different sector tiles, which you can see 1, 2, 3, the different numbered ones. You have the galactic center or sector. And then you've got all of these additional, can't remember the name of them, those tiles. And then you've got blueprint tiles here. And then you've got your miniature. You've got your, trying to remember what, discovery tiles. And then you've got like your kind of player. These are just reference, but they're chunky cardboard reference tokens, which I really appreciate. It shows you scoring, and it shows you, your reactions, the kind of reactions you can do, the different phases and what is involved there, and what happens during the main action phase. So all of those nestle in there. There's a little bit of wasted space here that I can see. But the other thing that happens is there's a whole bag of technology tiles, and then there's a bag of reputation markers. And these are the 2 things that I feel like could have slotted in just like these. So the discovery tiles, I don't know if you can see that, but they essentially line up all in a row in a little neat spot. I feel like you could have done that here in there because, like, for example, these sector tiles, most of them come somewhat flush. Really just the number 1. The number 2 and 3 though have some extra space, so maybe one of those could have been consolidated into these spots. And then also, this is a big deep well for just 1 tile, and this is a deeper well for just 4 tiles. And so I feel like they could have been compressed into certain areas, which would have allowed you to store these markers. I understand that they have bags for like the gameplay aspects, but you could have stored these markers in the actual tray itself and then put them in here for the game. And that way you wouldn't have like these looser areas. Because, for example, what I do is instead of using that foam, which technically protects this miniature, I am just slotting these and the player boards that I'm anxious about shoving into those trays yet. I'm storing these where the foam was, and that's how I'm consolidating it without having a bunch of like box lift where the rules are. But I'm super excited about this. The ability to play a game of this scope in a shorter time frame. The quality of the insert is really high. It's really nice. The production value on the game is just remarkable. Like just small stuff like the ability to lock in all of those tiles by the inset piece, the little sloping inward compression there or depression, all of the different slotted resources that's everywhere. Like I feel like I know that this is a massive table hog. Like if you haven't seen this on the table, if you get 4 to 6 players on a table, like I have a 40-inch by 9 foot, so like 3 3/4 foot table by 9 feet with the 2 leaves in that are currently in the middle here. And I feel like a 6-player game would take up most of the table, which is just insane. Like that's a massive amount of table space. But in spite of that, the way that they have efficiently managed it makes me much more interested in not as worried about getting it to the table because it's so compressed. So yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. I think it's a good game waiting to be played. I don't know. This is the kind of game where I feel like gamers kind of, are on two different sides of this. Some people see a big game like this and they're like, I'm only going to play that once a year. I can't justify owning it. And for me, if the experience is good enough, like if that one time that you play it, if it's good enough, to me, it's worth keeping for that one time. And I just like Forbidden Stars, Twilight Imperium, even newer editions like Black Rose Wars, and Star Wars Rebellion, stuff like that. Like I do not mind keeping those because of how much joy I derive from them in those few time periods. So it just doesn't bother me at all to get rid of them. So see, what I've done is I haven't put those I haven't put those player boards or trackers in here. So I slot them back here along with those bags, which keeps them from having to sit up top. And then it's just a matter of kind of gently nestling everything back together. And because of the fantastic organization, I'm able to do that. Yeah, so I'm really excited to play this. I hope to get, like a first impressions of this up at some point. I've got quite a few. I've got a weekend where I'm planning to play a bunch of big games. And if I can get this in on that weekend, that would be very exciting. I feel like this was a much more coherent and effective video than the last one was, where I couldn't even finish it. So I'm proud of that. Timestamp. And Eclipse, Second Dawn of for the Galaxy. Super excited to try it out. Can't wait to see if it lives up to my expectations, which are heady or anticipatory. Yeah. So Eclipse, Second Dawn for the Galaxy. Nice bits. Deluxe game aspect. This is not an upgrade that you have to purchase. It's already here in this big box. Granted, this big box costs a decent bit of money. But I feel like they've done an effective job at crafting a solution to make it more accessible than it would have been otherwise. And that is a win for me. That'll be it, guys. I'll see you later.